Hokie Hangover, live on YouTube, youtube.com/@Hokie Hangover Podcast. It is 9:39 p.m. on Sunday, September 29th. Put out a post on X a few hours ago saying that we'd start recording at 9:30, but if you knew us well, it would actually be 9:40. So if we use the second time, we're actually a little bit early, Ricky. We are we're
One
here.
of these nights we'll start on time. I would like to do that at some point, but one of these nights we'll do it.
It's funnier not to, and then everybody just is in on the joke. Miami 38, Virginia Tech 34 on Friday night, down at Hard Rock Stadium. Man, the Hokies played well here. This is a tough one to take for a number of reasons that we'll get into. Andrew is not with us yet. He said he'll be joining us shortly. Maybe we can all take bets on what time that'll be. And I'm sliding that in there just so when he listens back to this, he'll get a good laugh. It's a little payback for me running us late last week. Look, this was this is a really frustrating one, Ricky, for me to take personally, this game, because this was by far, I thought, Virginia Tech's best game of the season. Offensively, defensively, schematically, the game plan, how Pry and the staff had the team ready to play. This was by far Virginia Tech's best game, and it wasn't perfect, obviously, and we'll get into it. And there was some coaching decisions that, we'll get into the last call and the final call of the game. And there's plenty to criticize there from an ACC officiating standpoint. I'm going to be taking a little bit different approach there, I think, than broader fan base is still arguing whether it was a catch or not. I'm going to be taking a little bit different approach to that conversation. But just at a macro level, this was Virginia Tech's best game of the year. And if they continue to play like this the rest of the season, which is something you outlined in your column, Ricky, that you posted yesterday, if they continue to play like this the rest of the season, this team will be fine. But it almost just makes the first 4 games of the year even more frustrating with just how things have gone throughout the month of September, because we knew that playing like Virginia Tech did on Friday night is what this team is capable of when they're operating kind of at full capacity, like all systems go.
It never gets any easier, does it? All of these heartbreaking losses. It seems like we get one of these a year at least, where Tech makes you feel like they have a chance, and as it turns out, they do have a chance, and they're just not able to get it done for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's players, sometimes it's coaches, sometimes it's incredible performances from the opposing team. And I feel like with this one, we got a little bit of all three, right?
Yeah.
Miami turned it on in the fourth quarter on offense, really started to get it going again. The players, Mike, you're absolutely right that this was the best game that Tech had played up to this point, but the players, especially on the defensive end, really started to struggle, and that talent gap really started to show down the stretch. Sure. And then obviously we have the coaching issues, which are so frustrating. Brent Pry, his staff, they had a great game plan coming into this.
Yeah, they did.
They really had Miami on the ropes defensively, which was extremely encouraging.
Spammed that outside run, Ricky. Spammed it. They saw something.
When you find something that works, and it's look. I mean, Mike, we've been saying this for weeks now. Bashal Tutin is the best player on this offense, and he's one of the top 2 players on this team, and he may be number 1.
Yeah,
this is a guy that you need to get 20 touches a game. And Virginia Tech found a way to get him, I think, 24.
Yeah.
Which 19 of which came on the ground. I think he had 5 catches or 4 catches or something along those lines.
Yeah,
they made him a focal point in the offense in this game. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what they needed to do. They found a way to stretch Miami from sideline to sideline, which must have been something that this offensive staff saw on film, that they were vulnerable there. They certainly were in this game. Miami struggled to defend that all night long. But this kind of goes back to what I wrote in the column that you referenced, Mike. Losing overshadows all of that.
Yeah.
And this loss can be pinned on a lot of people. And in some ways, I think the officiating is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this loss can be pinned on the players because Virginia Tech, especially on the defensive end, really turtled up in the fourth quarter. But Mike, I go back to this coaching staff, and I'm not sure if it was you that maybe said something about the 1 in 10 stat, not liking it, but I'm going to bring it up again because I think it is. I think it goes to show that the adage of good teams finding ways to win and bad teams finding ways to lose, that adage is as true as the day is long.
Which is why I hate it, because the half of those 10 games came in year one, and that was a bad team. That was a bad team. I am
It
more
was.
frustrated. I am more frustrated with Virginia Tech being 0-3 in one score games this year. That's what I'm most
Which
frustrated with.
well, and that's fair, but it's the same thing, right? It's one of them is a time span that tells the same story that the 1 in 10 stat tells.
It is, but it isn't. And this is why I also have a problem with it, because not all one score games are created equal. And I agree with the overall point. I agree with the overall point that this team needs to figure out how to win close games, and they haven't done that under the staff. I am with everybody on that. There's no dispute with it 100%. I don't think spamming 1 in 10, 1 in 10, 1 in 10 is necessarily telling the entire story. Half of those
Well,
games came in year one,
mean,
right?
I'm not
Half of
going to
those
spam
games.
it, but I think it is part of it's part of the broader data that
Issue.
we have on this coaching staff, particularly Brent Pry, in the sense of he has an issue starting games, which we didn't see on Saturday, right? Which
No.
is incredibly encouraging, and
Mm-hmm.
you hope that that continues.
Yeah.
But this team has an issue starting games. They have an issue with clock management. They have an issue with game management.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have an issue with in-game adjustments, particularly in the first half, where it seems like there's too many instances where it takes them until halftime to figure things out.
Yeah.
So we have kind of a big set of data at this point. Some of which was when the roster was awful in
Horrible.
22, which
Horrible. Yeah.
everyone should cede that fact because it's true.
Right.
But at a certain point, you have to find ways to get the job done.
Yeah.
And I know that Miami is 7th in the country per the AP Top 25. I'll be honest, I'm not sure that ranking is valid. They probably are not that good if we're including everything into it. They're probably more like a top 15, top 20 team. Still, Virginia Tech had this team on the ropes. And to be quite fair, I think top 15, top 20 is where many people thought this Virginia Tech's team ceiling was. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like Virginia Tech was completely outclassed in this game. Miami certainly had an advantage, but Virginia Tech was not completely outclassed, and they found a way to lose. And the frustrating thing is that you're going to run out of these performances, right? You're going to run out of these games where you play up to your potential. And when you do play up to your potential, finally, you have to find a way to win. And I don't care who the opponent is. It's incredibly frustrating that this team cannot find ways to win games where they're finally punching above their weight class. And like I wrote in the column, they're now going to reach a decision that they have to make this week in practice. And that's, are they going to sulk and throw themselves a pity party and be upset that the officiating screwed them and they let one slip away and they're going to be all sad about it? Or they're going to be kind of like Brent Pry was in his post-game press conference and get really pissed off and really angry and use that as a motivational tactic to try and carry this performance, bottle it up, and then use it to sustain them for the rest of the season. Because, Mike, like you said, if they can do that, this team will be okay. They're not going to be as good as we thought they were. That's gone. I think that we can quit
That was
talking about
gone.
9 wins, 10 wins.
That was gone. That was gone when Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt and still had Clemson and Miami on the schedule and a Rutgers team that we all felt like was pretty good. That's when that was off the
I think
table.
if Tech can get to 8 wins from here, which may need to include a win against Clemson, which is looking dicier and dicier by the week.
Bleak.
Yeah.
Bleak. Yeah, bleak.
I
What's
think
up,
that
Andrew?
I think fans would be able to accept 8-4 there as an acceptable outcome of the season.
Agree.
But Tech's going to have to find a way to sustain this kind of play. And, through the first 5 games of the season, Tech just hasn't done it. They've had, spurts here and there. They finally put together their most complete game of the season and still lost. This road trip to Stanford, in a lot of ways, is kind of the last stand for this team as it comes to playing relevant football for the remainder of the year.
Well, Ricky, it can be in the worst possible case scenario, right? Like, you go there and you lose, and it's over. The dream is dead. Insofar as, like, we just talked about the hopes and dreams before the season. 9-3, 10-2. Yeah, that's pretty much dead already. But 8-4, let's be realistic, even 7-5 is still a step up compared to what this team has done over the course of the last decade.
You go 7-5, you're pushing it. I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy with that one, Andrew.
7-5. No, you're right. I wear a number 7 on my hat. 7-5 makes no one happy. 7-5 makes no one happy. But it's still a step up. I'm talking about, and let's talk about 7-5. 7-5. Now I'm making a drawing straws argument on behalf of Brent Pry in the athletic director's office.
Right. Of why this was a successful season. Right. Why this was.
But let's be real. That is a strong possibility. And that is losing to anyone other than Clemson.
Yeah, that's one more loss, and then the game you're absolutely not going to be favored in. That's like, I think we are looking, guys. I haven't really gotten my take off yet on this game as a whole, and I'll get there. But like, we're looking at a floor of like 5 wins, right? Like 4 or 5 wins. I think that's the floor with this team right now. That means that you get into a few more one-score games.
The team is good. Is coaching going to get in the way?
And is playmaking going to get in the way? Like, Virginia Tech played really well in this game. This is where I'm going to get into my take now, right? Like, Virginia Tech played really well in this game. The issue, and where I am really, really irritated, is that this was the best game that they played, and this was Game 5. It took until Game 5 to get the team that we thought that this was going to be. And that's a combination of things. That's coaching, that's the players performing, and I think it's kind of like all of the above when you look at this loss on Friday night. Because while I think the coaching staff had the team ready to go, I think they had their best game plan of the year, I think the players played their best game of the year, you can still point in a few different directions. Like Ricky mentioned, Andrew, right before you jumped on, you can still point a few different directions in terms of what went wrong here, right? We'll talk about the officiating, the end of the game play, but like there was a few different things here, right? There's the clock management and game management piece at a macro level from the coaching staff that put Virginia Tech in a precarious situation. We'll get into the specifics. There was a couple of plays that I think Virginia Tech's players would like to have back, specifically that fake field goal, which we'll get into the specifics of that as well. Pry said they got the look they wanted, and if you look at the replay and Parker Clements doesn't get blown off the ball, that's a first down, and St. Germain might be scoring. And then if you look at a few plays before that everybody has forgotten about because they're so mad about the fake field goal, which I understand, Stephen Gosnell dropped a gimme inside the 5-yard line, a pass that he catches 99 times out of 100. He's got the most reliable hands on the entire team, and he never, ever drops a pass like that. And he dropped one at a very crucial moment in the game. It would have put Virginia Tech at the very least on the doorstep of putting the ball in the end zone and putting this game out of reach to the point where we're probably not even having a conversation tonight about a fake field goal decision that Virginia Tech had to make. So you talk about plays like that. You talk about Virginia Tech's defense getting worn down, the conditioning more on them, which we see going down to Miami. The conditioning in the second half, it was a hard-fought game, back and forth, and this team just got grinded down in the second half. Cam Ward was outstanding in the second half of this game.
Outstanding.
He was outstanding at quarterback for Miami. And I thought Virginia Tech had a great game plan. They tried to contain him. Good pass rush, made him uncomfortable, made him throw a couple of really ill-advised interceptions that he would certainly like to have back. But when it was money time, Cam Ward delivered. He absolutely delivered. So, and a lot of different things went wrong here. We can take this conversation wherever you guys want to take it next. Everybody's got a hand. It's a close loss. Anytime there's a close loss, there's going to be decisions that you point to, and this isn't just Virginia Tech, this is across college football. We saw a lot of close losses this weekend where I'm like, man, that coach really wants to have that decision back. Anytime you have a close loss, there's going to be decisions that you wish you had back. And I personally think we should get into the game management, clock management piece now, which, guys, I have two decisions that if I'm Brent Pry, I really, really, like, two errors in the game that I really, really want back. I see them as errors. The one that's most egregious to me is not the one people are thinking of. I think everybody's talking about the fake field goal. The one that's most egregious to me is calling a timeout. You're 25 seconds left in the first half. You know you're kicking a field goal with John Love. Well, you think you do. And Pry panicked a little bit trying to make a decision there on that fourth down, what to do. Calls a timeout with 25 seconds left. Love nails a 57-yard field goal. Great kick. Great kick. Makes a field goal. The kickoff, which, by the way, I would have preferred to kick it deep. I don't have a problem with a squib kick if you cover it. You got to cover it. If you're gonna squib kick, you got to cover the kick. Virginia Tech didn't cover the kick, then committed the pass interference, and Borregales, who's one of the best kickers in the country, makes a long field goal of his own. And it's like that 3 points that you had going into half, thinking that you had an advantage, right? You lose that. And Gregory Azar, I'm going to bring his comment up because he's right on the money. To Pry's credit, he said he wanted that decision back. He owned it at the press conference after the game. Great. Glad he owned it.
Still made the mistake.
Still made the mistake. That
Great
was
to
a
make a
big.
mistake
That was that was
you can
a
admit
big
it.
one. Yeah, that was a big one. That was a really, really big one. I think it's bigger than the second half fake field goal. I think it's bigger than the clock management at the end of the game because, let's be honest, if the 3 points everybody's pointing to is the fake field goal, which is fine, right? That's fine. I don't have a problem that Virginia Tech didn't end up kicking a field goal in that situation. I have more of a problem that they didn't keep the offense on the field and go for it. And I have a problem with the third down play, which my podcast co-host Joey Weaver of my ACC podcast brought up last night, was a really good one. Why are you throwing the ball on third and short there? Like, why are you throwing the ball on third and short if you know that you're probably going to be going for it in some way, shape, or form on fourth down, especially when Bashal Tutin's averaging like 9 yards per carry at that point in the game? That I think that's more problematic than calling the fake field goal, which I hated. I hated the fake field goal. But once again, you are not, and I said this on the preview, and we were all in agreement, you aren't going to beat Miami kicking field goals. You're not going to you're not going to beat Miami kicking field goals. You're not going to do it. And I understand it changes the end of the game scenario and all this stuff, but to that point in the game, the reason why you had the lead like you had is because you were aggressive. You have to continue to be aggressive there. And I understand the argument, taking the points after the interception. I get it. But you don't have opportunities like this very often to step on a top 10 team's throat on the road in their house relatively late in the second half. This is late third quarter. Relatively late in the second half, Virginia Tech had an opportunity to go up this game 3 scores if they convert on 3rd and 3 and then on 4th and 3. And instead, they threw the ball on third down, which is an egregious coaching error, in my opinion. Bowen called the game of his life on Friday night. I thought he was outstanding on Friday night. He would like to have that one back. And then the decision to call a fake field goal. I don't care if you've been practicing it. I don't care if you got the look that you wanted. The coaching error to me in that particular play is relying on Parker Clements to make a block. And Clemens was lined up on the left side of the line in the special teams formation, and you're relying on your least reliable offensive lineman, which, by the way, Clemens, by and large, I know he had a false start on the drive at the very end of the game, and I know he got blown off the ball there. By and large, I thought Parker Clemens played his best game of the year on Friday night. But you're relying on your most unreliable offensive lineman, a guy who's really, really struggled in pass protection all year long and has struggled some with the run. You're relying on him to make a block. That's where I have the issue. So that's where I'm at. Really frustrating.
It would have been more acceptable for me if Tech had trotted the offense out there and they were stopped.
That's my biggest issue.
I still would not have liked it. I want to make that abundantly clear. I am very much a take the points kind of guy. I think if you have points in your back pocket, you need to take them. I know that they only would have gone up 13. It's still a 2-score game in that situation. But not scoring there completely flipped the momentum of the game.
That I agree with.
It lit a fire under Miami's ass, and next thing you know, Cam Ward went and did his thing. So if you're going to go for it, which again I don't agree is the right decision, you absolutely don't do it out of a fake field goal formation, especially when you have your running back who's been running roughshod over this defense.
Yeah,
tell them what you're going to do. They couldn't stop it anyway.
Yeah, just run it. Just spam the outside. What did we say? Spam the outside run, like we were saying. Just spam it.
If you line up with Tootin in the backfield, that gives you a plethora of options: outside run, inside run.
And those were working. By the way,
they couldn't stop either.
Yeah.
And Mike, nothing makes me happier than hearing you talk for 20 minutes to say things that I totally agree with, because you're totally fucking right. Everything that you say is correct. That's why people listen to this.
Tell that to my wife.
Oh, maybe not in that scenario. But at the end of the day, for me, and we will rewind and say everything that Mike and Ricky have said to this point is correct. In-game coaching mistakes could have been corrected. We still lose this game in the exact same way we do. If you can beat freaking Vanderbilt,
you're sitting. That's what makes me more frustrated.
The outlook is totally different.
It changed the narrative of the entire season when you did that.
I predicted prior to the season, and what I predicted would be the return to glory Virginia Tech season, that we would lose to Rutgers, who, by the way, beat Washington on Friday night.
Yep. And looked good doing it.
A very recent college football playoff team. And so they lose to Rutgers, they lose to Miami. Ricky, come on. Don't kill my narrative.
Not the same team, Andy. You know that.
I know. Kevin DeBoer, what's he doing these days? Did he play a game this weekend?
A banger. An absolute banger.
That game, if people thought the Tech Miami game was on coke, the Bama Georgia game was on.
Let me tell you, man.
Actually, no. Let me tell you, I am late to the party here. I can't look left without someone saying, "Oh my God, you guys got screwed this weekend."
Yeah.
I wear this stupid ass hat out in public, and people are shaking my hand and kissing my face and saying, "I'm sorry that they did that to you."
Well, I guess we can go ahead and talk about the officiating in this game since we've transitioned.
We don't even need to get to that yet. We need to get to, which we're doing. More importantly than the officiating is, what could Virginia Tech have done to avoid that situation in a game that they should have lost? Right? Like, we talk about grasping defeat from the clutches of victory. And when you're 1 and now 10 in one-score games, it becomes a recurring theme.
Mike's favorite stat.
I hate it so much.
It becomes a recurring theme.
The narrative with it really frustrates. I understand it, and Andrew
The
right before he
narrative
jumped
is
on.
the same, Michael. We just discussed this.
The narrative,
is the same.
the narrative. I mean, Virginia Tech. The reason why they lost a bunch of one-score games in 2022 is because that was the worst roster in 30 years. That's why they were losing one.
but
Not
other
all
years
one-score
later,
games
they're
are.
still
Rosters
doing
too.
it. They're
I
still
not
doing
I
it.
honestly excuse 2022 less than I excuse one-score games right now.
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Those
0-3
teams
this
suck,
year.
Pitt sucked.
0-3.
They all suck. We still lost.
0-3
fine.
in one-score games this year is the bigger deal to me.
Yeah.
It
is.
It's a bigger
You're
deal to me.
right.
Yeah.
Same narrative, just
You
different
know,
time
it's,
span.
it's a larger narrative.
I'm just there are different reasons why. My point is there are different reasons why you lose one-score games, and not all one-score games are created equal. And Virginia Tech lost a lot of one-score games in 2022. I mean, hell, they were in a hell game with Wofford in September in 22. Like, the reason why you're losing one-score games, Virginia Tech pulled away there, but it wasn't. You guys all remember it was not pretty.
was ugly.
That post-game podcast was one for the
was
books. It was
I'm gonna
ugly.
check out
Like,
Tim Thomas.
yeah, I mean, check on Tim Thomas in the booth and see how he's doing after that one. My point is, I think in 2022 it's easier to point to the lack of talent, right? I think the last two seasons, and look, the five of those games came in 22, and 3 of them have come this season, right? They only played in 2 one-score games last year. It was really, really frustrating to see this team go up against Vanderbilt and fall behind 17. It was really difficult to see them fall behind 3 scores against Rutgers. It was really difficult to watch Virginia Tech in a different one-score game. This is kind of my point, but I think in 24 it's kind of more linear in terms of like the in-game coaching stuff undermining the talent on the roster, which is why I think it's different, right? It's different when you don't have the talent. Now we have the talent and the coaching's undermining it. It's a little bit different in my opinion. I don't think the coaching was necessarily undermining the talent in 22. The team just was bad.
I mean, obviously, Mike, that's true. Everything you're saying is true.
Yeah.
And credit to the coaching staff. Like you said, Tyler Bowen probably coached his best game ever.
Virginia Tech was probably fortunate to be in a bunch of one-score games in 22 is my entire point. Like they probably shouldn't have been in a bunch of one-score games in 22. That team was awful.
I don't buy that solely. We don't need to get into an argument about 22.
No. But anyway.
Nonetheless, Virginia Tech's coaching staff did a good enough job to put their players in a position to win a game against a much more talented team. On Friday night.
Yes.
And we can't take that away from them.
But
I texted someone. I don't know if it was you guys. I said,
is
this Brent Pry's best game? Is this Brent Pry's best game? Because in reality, what argument can you make for another game? Oh,
if it is, Andrew, it says a lot more about the negative nature of his tenure than it being a positive.
It's a narrative-based conversation.
You will, Richard. Is that your full name? I don't even know, dude.
Yes, but
it's a narrative-based conversation in regard to that, right? Because like, was it the best game of the tenure? Yeah, but Tech lost again. They still lost.
No, we were robbed, but nonetheless.
Okay. Anything else in regard to game, like the game management stuff? The clock man. I guess we can talk about. Let's talk about the last drive, and that'll kind of lead into the officiating conversation, which could be lengthy. So I think we can.
I just don't understand what the thought process is late in games or in any of these clock management situations where it seems like Brent is just not processing the situation quickly enough,
Mr. Clueless.
Or he doesn't have. I mean, he's got like 42 assistants on the staff between regular coaches and support staff and quality control guys, and you're telling me no one can get in his ear and tell him what the play is here? I understand he's balancing all of these things that coaches have to balance, but coaches across the country manage this better every single week. Across the country, it doesn't matter what level of football.
And a lot of them manage it exactly the same. because Ricky, if you look across the sport, there are a lot of coaches who are really, really bad at this, and Pry is in terms of like game management, clock management, and I think Pry is in that bucket where he's got to really improve there.
That doesn't excuse him for it, though, right?
No. I'm just saying this is a plague.
Pay someone, you can pay someone like $35K a year to be your
clock guy,
call timeout coach.
Oh yeah, hold on, Mike. Throw that comment up there. I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet.
Yeah,
Virginia
this was
Tech
another
got
thing.
3 points when they shouldn't even have gotten 3 points.
Yeah, they had two players the same number on the field again.
Ricky, that is absolutely true. It happened again.
This is like Pop Warner League BS. Why can you not figure this out? This should not be that freaking difficult.
Yeah.
Why does this keep happening?
I agree.
Why? I don't care if Cole Nelson needs to be on the field goal block team. Someone else can do it because apparently we can't figure this out.
Yeah.
You cannot have two players with the same number on the field at the same time. I'm looking at you, Stu Holt. This is your job. You have one freaking job, and you still cannot get the players on the field that need to be on the field.
Yeah, special teams have been a problem this year.
I mean, ironically, special teams have been
outside
a
of John
net
Love
positive other than like 4 plays.
But all of
all been consequential.
Those 4 plays are a huge net negative.
Yeah.
Guess what special teams is? A huge net negative.
Yeah, they're consequential. Yeah, they're very consequential plays. So the number thing, I don't have anything to add. They just got to figure that out. Like,
this is not a problem anywhere else.
You might want to just make sure that people wearing the same number don't show up at the same time.
It's just crazy. I don't know how we keep doing that.
Not a problem anywhere else, guys.
That is not.
No other team has to deal with this.
That is not. So the clock management thing is a problem in a lot of places.
Yeah.
The having 2 guys with the same number on the field, I haven't seen anybody else have that problem. So figure it out. Figure it out.
Everyone else can figure this out except Stu Holt.
It seems like a really simple fix to me.
If you root for a school where it is a problem, because misery loves company.
Yeah.
I am sure that we can change John Love's number to like 72 or whatever number it needs to be.
93.
70. How about 70?
I don't care. He can wear 00. I don't give a shit. I just want to have 11 guys on the field that don't have the same number.
Yeah.
It's too much to ask, Ricky. Relax.
It's mind-boggling. I don't understand.
Yeah, figure that out. And to me, it's as simple as just like making sure the most important player on the field goal unit, for example, who is John Love, making sure that nobody has the same number as him. It should be pretty simple, but we still continuously find ways to screw this up.
Who is definitely going out on field goal? The kicker.
John Love.
Maybe so we should get someone not wearing the same number as him. I don't know. I don't know. I don't get paid $5 million a year, so I'm not qualified to make these decisions.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
I'm sorry.
No,
let's get to the officiating.
well, okay. So the last like clock management thing, which this leaks into the officiating too, because I think this is part of the reason why the clock ran down on Pry. This is a theory that I have, but a couple things. Number one, Kyron Drones throws a pass to the right sideline that DeQuan Felton catches. It was one of a couple catches they had on the drive, including the last one of the game. They threw it to the so you know where I'm leaning there. Threw it to the right side of the field, and Felton makes a catch, and he spins out of bounds. And the officiating decides that Felton's forward progress was stopped. So actually, he did not go out of bounds by his own doing. His forward progress was stopped first. Why is that important? Because the official wound the clock. And that meant that Felton didn't get out of bounds. It was almost just as good as falling down in bounds. It was preposterous that was the call that they made there. It's a bang-bang play. It's a 50-50 call. I could not believe that they called Felton in, like, essentially in bounds on that play, right? Essentially saying that he didn't get out of bounds on his own accord. That was crazy. That underscores a play that took place a couple plays later when Kyron Drones goes running up the middle of the Miami defense when they were basically in prevent, making sure we didn't get anything to the end zone, obviously. Kyron Drones runs up the middle and gets freaking horse collar tackled. And there's not everybody on television was talking. Everybody's on television talking about it. Everybody on social media is talking about it. Like Virginia Tech and non-Virginia Tech fans that I follow are like, that's a horse collar, right? And it just underscores the officiating problem that we had all night, where there were some holding calls, some PI calls. There was, and it wasn't just in the direction of Virginia Tech. It was in the direction of Miami too. Where like, hey, there's a really obvious like pass interference here or a hold, and the official waits like 15 minutes to throw the flag. I'm like, what are we doing here? All that to say that the last play of the game, Kyron Drones throws the pass to the back left corner of the end zone, and we know what happened, right? Ball gets batted around. Basically, it looks like
Mike. It didn't really get batted.
It's rolling around a little bit, and it lands into Quan Felton's lap, and they're trying to determine whether or not he gained possession of the ball or not, right? And the officials on the field decided in that moment that it was going to be a touchdown. I don't care, and this is where my argument is on this play and where I have a real problem with the officiating. I don't care if you call it incomplete or complete. There is absolutely zero reason why this call should have been overturned. If you called it incomplete, because I'm not 1,000% sure. I think Felton caught it for a touchdown. I'm obviously a Virginia Tech alum. That's where I fall on this argument. But if you called that pass incomplete on the field and I watched that replay, I would have said, you know what? I think it's inconclusive. I think this is probably going to stand as an incomplete pass. That is where I have a problem.
That's the whole devil's advocate argument, Mike.
That's where I have the issue.
All weekend is that if you called it incomplete on the field to the same nature, there wouldn't be enough conclusive evidence to overturn it in the other direction. However, they called it a complete pass on the field. I mean, Ricky, do you agree with that?
I mean, judging from some of the photos I have seen, it looked like he caught it. Now,
but we're talking about in the moment, though. In the moment.
In the moment, what exactly? Please.
Like, so in the moment, given the evidence that we had at the time, which to me and Mike's eyes, and I'm sure yours too, that there certainly wasn't enough conclusive evidence to overturn it in the other direction.
From any of
either
the
way
angles that they showed, it did not look, at least on replay, like it was conclusive. The only way I could tell that it looked like a catch for me was after the fact with some photos that ended up getting put out that made it look like Felton had his ass in the end zone with the ball in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, the video did not look like there was any sort of way to tell who had possession at what time. And in that case, I don't know how you come to that conclusion. And especially if it takes you, what was it, like 6 minutes to replay a call?
That tells you everything you need to know.
How can you tell me that in 6 minutes you can go from thinking it was a touchdown, all of a sudden we have absolute clear evidence? It took us 6 minutes to find this clear evidence. But we have it now, and it's incomplete.
I have a comment I'm putting up on the screen. New King God. It was never a catch. Well, I mean, it was, because they called it a touchdown on the field, and that's where I have the problem.
At one point,
that's my problem. That's where I have the problem, because and to Ricky's point, 1,000% correct. If it takes you 5.5 minutes to review a play and you still don't really know, and you can't look at an angle that determines if this thing should be overturned or not, that means it shouldn't be overturned, right? And this is where I'm at. If you called it incomplete on the field and you reviewed it for 5.5 minutes, even as a Virginia Tech fan, I would have the same take. If it takes you that long to perform the review in the ACC Command Center, which they could, never mind.
And
I don't want to say what I want to say.
One game that they were watching.
Yeah,
they had one game they were watching.
Was Jimmy Cleveland is standing outside with pitchforks and torches right now.
Yeah.
To which I tell you,
downtown Charlotte,
New King God, good luck against Alabama.
Yeah, have fun. I have a problem with the process of it all. If you call a touchdown on the field, if you don't call a touchdown on the field, whatever. If it takes you 5.5 minutes to review it, it means you do not have conclusive evidence to overturn the call. So am I shocked that that was the result that we ended up with? No, because this is what happens to Virginia Tech. This is what happens. I am not shocked that they overturned the call. More importantly, I am not a conspiracy theorist, but
Oh, put
if,
on your tinfoil hats, boys. Put it on.
if it's taking you 5.5 minutes to review a play like that, and it's clear and obvious to everybody that it's not clear and obvious, then it leads a lot of college football fans to believe that you are giving favor to the top 10 team at home that was a 20-point favorite, that has college football playoff aspirations, that has ACC title aspirations, and they were about to get beat on the field by an inferior opponent that was a 3-score dog, and you reviewed a play for 5.5 minutes that was it a catch or wasn't, and you come to the conclusion that there was enough evidence to overturn it when everybody on planet Earth is like, I don't know. That's how you get the conspiracy theorists out there being like, you know what, you're doing Miami a little bit of solid here, which I believe is true. I think it would be better for the ACC if Miami makes the ACC title game, and I think it's better for, and not to say they wouldn't even if they lost to Virginia Tech, but my point is that like that would be a tough loss for Miami early in the conference schedule, one that they weren't expecting to lose, right? And you never know with this conference, and it would put Miami in a really, really interesting spot for as good of a team that they have, that they lost to a 3-score underdog in Virginia Tech. It would be better for the ACC. Be better for the ACC if Miami was in the ACC title game. And a good way to make that happen is to overturn a 50-50 call. That's the conspiracy theory.
Would be a quick way to
tinfoil hat.
If
that's a tinfoil hat theory.
ACC week 1, they lose to, as you said, Mike, a 17.5-point underdog.
Yeah.
That would be a quick way to kick the conference out of national relevance.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's right. Maybe that's wrong. It's something to consider.
Mike, you mentioned that it was clear and obvious to everyone that this was not clear and obvious.
Mm-hmm.
There was one person that this was clear and obvious that it was clear and obvious.
Who would that be?
I think you know exactly who I'm referring to, Michael. Jimothy Phillips.
Okay, continue.
I mean, well, what else are we supposed to think? Like, I don't know how you get to this point where
go on.
It's all of a sudden a 6-minute review, and then we're all of a sudden able to get to a call that is completely inconclusive.
They were working
like
the phones.
I said, it was very conclusive to a certain individual.
Gregory Azar says #business decision
that is fighting. Fighting to keep his conference alive.
Now, it is funny how this podcast consistently comes back to me talking about my dad, the Duke football fan, for some reason. He texts me at like 7 o'clock in the morning, like, that was a tough one, Andrew. Reminds me of when Duke played Miami a couple of years ago, that lateral play. Made me think about it. Looked into it. Same referee.
Exact same referee.
Same referee.
The same official. Yep.
I told him that today. The man about to have a heart attack. Good thing Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFL, or otherwise the guy would be dead.
That and Duke is the worst 5-0 team in the country.
Yeah,
best line through it. Yeah. Yeah.
They want Bama.
They want, yeah. I don't have much left to add. I think it was and I posted this and it got some run on social media.
God, we lost and we are not over it.
Well, no, look, the Miami fans in the comments, whatever it is, what it is. They spammed my ACC pod last night. I thought we had a perfectly reasonable conversation about this game, but whatever. The one thing that I posted on social media got some run, and that this is my final take on this. It was a perfect ending to a really poorly officiated game. I mean, just really, really bad showing by the ACC officials in general on Friday night. And again, this was like the cherry on top to a really, really poor officiating performance by this ACC crew. I mean, that the hold on the Prelo touchdown run was awful. Like, I don't know where they called the hold on. If you want to call a hold like on the right side of the offensive line, that would have been fine, but like that's not who they called it on. And I don't know if they just got the number wrong or what. Virginia Tech scored later on that drive. It's fine, but like that was really bad. The holding calls that did not take place on defense were crazy. The Daquan Felton thing I mentioned, the missed horse collar tackle, this play at the end. That's just what I can remember.
So I have an alternate theory that does not involve Jim Phillips. If you guys are interested,
it has to involve Jim Phillips.
Where did this game take place, gentlemen?
Florida.
Yeah, Coral. Is it Coral Gables technically, or is it Miami Gardens, or is it Miami Gardens where Hard Rock's located? Yeah,
it took place in Miami. Miami fans are not known to have any issues fighting people in the stands, are they?
Well, there's no Miami fans. They're just like Walmart consumers, right?
There it is. All I'm saying is, I think these referees went into business for themselves and realized that if they wanted to get home safely, they needed to make a decision
fast.
And the good old command center probably told them, "Yeah, we'll back you on this one."
I saw a post that was like the 5.5 minutes to do the review. This is how it was broken down. I would need to go back and find it, but it was like 1.5 minutes reviewing the play, 4 minutes figuring out how the officials were going to get home safely. It was like,
yeah,
I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
4 minutes of answering a phone call from a specific conference official.
Yeah.
30 seconds on the 30 seconds on the play, and then 1 minute figuring out how to get them out safely. There's your 5.5 minutes.
That is simply waiting for Uber Black response time.
Yeah,
but
yep, yeah, exactly.
We'll give New King God credit though, who says never a catch laughing face, which we don't necessarily agree with. But he does say 2 and 3, not going to change just because y'all cry about it.
This goes back to Ricky's column.
In 10 years, no one's going to remember that. It'll be Brent Pry was 2 and 3, and then whatever the rest of the schedule fulfills, right?
And he was 1 and 10 in one score games. Sorry, Mike.
Oh gosh, Ricky.
One more thing.
True.
One more thing that I want to put out on this game, which because I love taking shots at the Miami fan base. I think they're one of the worst in the conference. This is a top 10 football team, primetime game against a team that's been a rival of theirs for the last 30 years. That stadium was half full.
Always is.
Just embarrassing.
No, when they say,
hold on, Andrew, hold on. Utterly unserious and disgraceful fan base. Absolutely unserious.
Ricky, to your point, when they say best fans in the country and they got to do their Instagram photos like heavy cut, so it's just showing one section.
just the 100 section.
It's utterly embarrassing support.
Clearly,
from this fan base.
And New King God, before you come at me, and all you Miami fans listening, yes, you guys certainly have a better football team. But let me tell you, if no one gives enough of a fuck to show up, what does it matter? It's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears the sound. At least we might suck enough to do a live stream or we complain about it.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh,
so here, so the last thing I want to say is that I still
up a real competition. Who, buddy? Who? This guy says he shows up a real competition. Please tell me who's the real competition. Who?
I still personally For those on audio, Andrew was arguing with the comment.
That's why Hard Rock Stadium is dead ass empty, other than the Dolphins games, every fucking day of the year. You're gonna have to mute me. I'm sorry. I'm done.
My best Miami story is still the 2017 game where I was in the press box for that, and we saw two folks fighting in the section in front of us, and sure as hell, two Miami fans fighting each other. Just gotta love it.
Yeah, it's par for the course of that fan base. That's what I would say. The Miami played. I think what's problematic for Miami here is that Virginia Tech put some stuff defensively on film that if you actually like nut up and get a pass rush on Cam Ward, he will throw it to the other team, which is something that I don't think any team Miami has played so far this year has been good enough to do. Florida's defensive front really struggled to get after the quarterback in that game, and Ward had a pretty clean pocket to throw from, and Miami's got a good offensive line. But I think Virginia Tech proved that if you're able to get a pass rush and make this offensive line uncomfortable and get Cam Ward a little bit of a happy feet situation, he'll throw it to the wrong team. I think Virginia Tech showed that because he had a couple of really, really ugly interceptions in this game. I think it's just something to monitor the rest of the way for Miami, who I think is going to have a pretty good year. But there's some defenses coming up on the schedule, particularly in a few weeks against Louisville on the road. That would be a spot. Hell, Cal's defense next week. Cal's defense has been pretty good this year. They can get a pass rush going. I don't think they can score enough to beat Miami, obviously, but I mean that's another team that can, I think, maybe unexpectedly be in the game because they're able to get a little bit more pressure on Cam Ward. But I mean, Miami's got a pretty favorable schedule the rest of the way. They should be in Charlotte.
No, Miami should be fine. Which, by the way, Miami is an extremely good team. I don't want to take away anything from that.
Yeah.
Despite their fans, despite everything, and the guy spamming us in the comments right now, like, yeah, no, you're right. They got a good team. But, I mean, I had Miami fans from work texting me how good our defensive line is. Well, if if your goals are your goals, there is a lot more challenges to face.
Yeah,
in Virginia Tech. In that category, if you're going to play one round of the college football playoff, which is their goal, right? It's like as it should be.
Right.
I think they might be, if not the best team in the ACC. I mean,
two,
and they'll have to face Clemson to decide it. Clemson's defensive line will make Virginia Tech's defensive line look quite petty, right? Like different levels.
Yeah, there's only APR is like the only guy who could pretty much start anywhere. I mean, he's on pace to be. I mean, he leads the country in sacks. He's going to be an All-American. He leads the country in sacks. If he continues playing like this, he's going to be an All-American. He's unbelievable.
Certainly hope so.
Anyway,
I don't know if they'll put him on the All-American team because he got 4 sacks against Old Dominion, but
that's true. That's true. But
it is. But not saying he's a bad player.
He has player. To.
We're happy to have him.
He has to be what he has to keep rolling and be one of the top players in the country in sacks by season's end. We'll be back. I don't really have it. Do you guys have anything else? I don't really have anything here other than Virginia Tech. Heck of an effort.
This is something that I think we'll address on the preview pod for Stanford, but we are now entering the portion of the season where the schedule has gotten much more difficult than we expected it to be. Stanford is part of that. I know they got stomped by Clemson this week, but I think Tech fans are going to have to learn a little bit about this Cardinal team and give them their respect that they're certainly due.
Good rushing defense. They have a good rushing defense.
Good rushing offense. They ran all over Clemson.
Well, back
had
to
over
the
200 rush yards, I think.
Back to the core of this podcast. However you feel about the referees, however you feel about the coaching job, you have to feel a little bit better about this team.
I think
you did before the game. It's true.
You have to feel better.
You have to feel better. You have to feel better. They took Miami, who, according to people in our comments and according to people on national television every day, are running for the national championship, and they won, essentially. And the game got taken away from them. Even if, and it's an L, people in the comments are right. The game is a loss, but it was so close that we had to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Makes you feel better about losing to Rutgers. Or maybe Rutgers is just really good, which I am willing to accept as a New Jersey native.
Said going into it, and but I said going into it, and afterwards, I thought Rutgers was a good team, but I think Virginia Tech should. I don't want to break that ground now. We've been there, done that. I'm really frustrated. This game makes me more frustrated about the entire first month because this is what I think the team is capable of and how they're capable of playing, and it was just not anywhere close. We can all agree this team played nowhere close to this level for a full game the entire year. I mean, that's the part
it certainly makes you mad because if the team that showed up in South Florida on Friday was the team that showed up in Nashville or in Blacksburg against Rutgers,
you win by 2 scores at least in both of those games.
Both games,
right?
Both games.
Yeah,
and we're 4-1, and
Feeling
we're having a very calm, cool, and collected conversation.
We're even more mad about the call at the end of the game and the, I don't know.
Because we just got robbed of the national championship.
4-1. So I don't know. But they're 2-3. This, like Ricky said, really important stretch of the schedule coming up, and we'll be back later this week to preview Stanford. We'll be back. We'll go live Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll let you all know. We'll figure it out schedule-wise and let you all know on social media. Thanks for following. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not done so already. Even you, New King God, Miami fan, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out.
King God,
appreciate that.
Please.
Yeah, come back. Come back. You can talk smack all year long, even if Tech's not playing Miami.
You can tell us that we're going to lose to Stanford because we might.
Yeah, just hit that subscribe button because it puts money in our pockets. And until next time, go Hokies.